What's up, you guys? Welcome back to WIDEBODY Nation. We're in the 2022 WRX, and this is everything I hate about the car. And spoiler alert, none of these are deal breakers for why you should or shouldn't buy the car, but they're all kind of nitpicky things, some of which you can change relatively easily, and other things you're pretty much stuck with because there are things that you can't really modify. So we're gonna go ahead and start driving, and you guys are in kind of the super view mode, as GoPro says it, so you can see as much of the car interior as possible, maybe get a few driving impressions from me. We're just driving around 12 South in Nashville. It's like a pretty nice area. If you guys have a girlfriend or a significant other, I would highly recommend taking them to 12 South. If you're in Nashville, you'll get lots of kudos and brownie points if you guys take them down there, I guarantee it. So while we're cruising around, we'll start off with the first thing I hate about this car, and actually it's a continued Subaru problem as well, and that dog just tried to attack the car. Little spicy dog. But it is these seatbelt chimes, and specifically how sensitive they are in this car. So a lot of you guys might know that, like the previous Subarus, if you would put your phone on the passenger seat and the passenger seat had no one in it, it would still activate the seatbelt chime. And it's like your phone weighs all of what, 1 or 2 pounds, depending on what kind of phone you have, which is really frustrating. Like I get the reason for seatbelt chimes. I understand it. I'm not saying we shouldn't have them, but the fact that they're so finicky or sensitive to where when you put your phone on a seat is very, very inconvenient and annoying, because obviously the seatbelt chime in this car, like if we take the seatbelt off real quick, it just kind of like overrides everything. If you have music on, which we obviously don't right now for copyright reasons, then it literally takes over your music, it takes over everything. Furthermore, in this car, they have seatbelt monitors for the back. So if you want to show them Jolly in the back, our dog Jolly Roger is in the back right now. And so as you guys notice, all of the seatbelts are buckled back there because Jolly was setting off the seatbelt alarms and they're up here. Like this car literally has a seatbelt alarm monitor for every single seat, which again, safety is great, but I could at least do with a little bit less sensitive front seat one, you know, maybe 30 or 50 pound monitor, not a 2 pound monitor. So that's enough of that. The next thing, which has already been talked about by a lot of people, but I've just got to let Subaru know, so hopefully they find a new parts supplier and they don't keep doing this on other vehicles, is the turn signal. The turn signal stock is the crappy BMW style one that does not stay detented and does not stay in the spot. As soon as you let it go, it just goes back to center, so you don't really get that positive reinforcement to where when you put your turn signal on, it stays up or stays down respectively. Now some people might say, well, that doesn't make, who cares? Like, as long as it shuts itself off automatically, then what's the big deal? And I kind of agree with that. It's not, you know, like I said, it's not a deal breaker why you shouldn't buy the car. I just don't understand why Subaru switched to this style that doesn't have the detent in it when they've been making them correctly for so long, and that just kind of blows my mind. The third thing I would say is that the key is weak, and it's the old style Subaru key. I don't think they've changed these keys for upwards of, it's at least 6-7 years, maybe even longer, which is pretty, you know, just not impressive, especially when you keep in mind the key does not work from very far away. My wife's Toyota kind of has the same issue as well, just kind of a cheap key. So we'll go over some exterior features. You guys have seen the exterior of this car already in my walk around that we talked about it at length, so I'll just mention that the next thing I don't like about these cars is, which I guess would be the fourth thing, is the rear bumper. You know, the rear bumper is just too much. It looks too crossovery. I really don't mind the fender arches that much, but the rear bumper, it like bulges out. People say it looks like a diaper, and it really does. I don't mind plastic on the rear. It's just the way that they executed it here is not it. And so we're actually coming up to the main drag of 12 South right now, which is, what is 12th Ave? Yep, 12th Ave South. That is probably why they call it 12 South. All right, that's enough talking about the rear bumper diaper. Again, a lot of people talk about that. The next thing that not a lot of people talk about is the tires / suspension choice on this car. So Meg and I were driving to the smoothie place we just went to, and remember when we crossed the railroad tracks? That was rather violent in what's supposed to be like an off-roady car, you know? Like the Raptor would have eaten that up no problem. Your car probably would have done decent with it because you've got bigger tires on your car and your suspension's not this stiff. But guys, the suspension on this car is pretty darn stiff for like a, you know, $35,000, like just kind of like a daily driver that has off-road capability, right? Another thing that hurts it that's not just the suspension are the tires. This has 18-inch wheels. It has 35 profile tires. So there's basically no sidewall to absorb any of the shock that the suspension may or may not absorb as well. So this thing drives pretty darn stiff. It's not like race car stiff, but it's pretty stiff ride. And then you couple it with the manual, you know, it's a sporty car, but it's a stiff car. So honestly, if I'm gonna keep this car for a while, my daily driver wheels are probably gonna go down to 17-inch wheels, and then I'm gonna put a nice all season on it, up the profile to either 40 or 45 profile, and obviously run the tires at a more reasonable PSI, which would be, you know, between 32 and 34 most likely. And that's, I guess, the last thing is with the tires is they come from the dealership / from the factory at like 44 PSI, which is crazy high. That's like pop your tire high if you hit a speed bump too fast because it's at 44 PSI. The next thing, I believe is the sixth thing, is that this car does not get great MPG. It gets decent MPG. We're at 21 average right now, and that's mainly city driving. I guess a small note on that too, like I've been putting premium in this because it's a Subaru, and at least while you're breaking in the Subaru, you do not want to be putting regular in. Although the owner's manual does say that you are, you know, that there should be no detriment to performance if you put regular or 89 in this car as well. So I'm not going to chance it. I've been putting premium in it. Premium is still much cheaper than diesel, at least where we are in Tennessee. So that's still accomplishing the main purpose of this car, which was to save money on gas and just to not put money on my diesel, because not only does it get bad gas mileage and it's diesel, you also need diesel exhaust fluid, and then the oil changes and everything are much more expensive on the diesel compared to like changing the oil on a Subaru. We're in a construction zone right now, so you guys may or may not be getting some good feedback on all these bumps, and all this road noise might give you a good idea of how refined or not this car is. I'm curious what we're getting into right now. There's a lot of like police out and stuff. All right, next thing I do not like about the 2022 Subaru WRX is some little aspects of this infotainment center. So Meg, if you want to turn the camera just a little bit so we can just look at that more. All right, so the infotainment, it's decent. They provided enough hard buttons to not like totally want to punch this screen every day, but some of these buttons are, some of these areas are not, or they don't have enough buttons. So like the fan speed, the up on the fan speed is fine, it works fine, but sometimes you accidentally touch the AC button, so now it's about to get hot in the car just because I accidentally touched the AC button. That's so close to where it registers you touching the you know, the up fan. Same thing with on off. I've turned this AC on and off many times where I was just trying to turn it down because the on off button is very, very close. And then if you want to use heated seats, obviously we're not using heated seats in the summer. This heated seat button is right here, but it automatically pulls this screen up and you have to use it right here. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if they have a heated seat button right here, why doesn't that just turn it on by itself? Why can't I just use that one, you know? And then it doesn't hijack the whole screen. Now, the screen is nice, right? But we're talking negatives this video, so I won't give the screen too much praise for now. Next thing, I would say is probably the biggest critique I have of this whole car is that Subaru doesn't make it in a hatchback. I do not understand why they cannot make this in a hatchback, or why they wouldn't exclusively make this in a hatchback, because the market for hatchbacks and crossovers is far exceeding sedans. It's far exceeding pretty much everything out there right now. So the fact that with this new generation that's on the new Subaru global platform, the fact they didn't do a hatchback is, I think, a very ignorant move on their part, both ignorant to enthusiasts, to people who just want more room, and also just ignorant to the market in general. Like, the market has spoken. Hatchbacks and crossovers are the new way. Now you're gonna come back at me and say, oh, well, there's the Forester, oh, well, there's the Outback, oh, well, there's the normal Impreza. But none of those have the WRX motor all juiced up, coupled with a 6-speed transmission, coupled with the suspension. All I'm saying is they should have bumped this out to do a hatchback. And I would say that is my biggest complaint with this, because if this was a hatchback, I probably would not get rid of this car for a long time. Whereas, you know, I'll probably trade this in on my next, you know, car flip or my next car or whatever, just because I'm just trying to survive those high gas prices right now, and you know, bring some content to you guys as well. The last thing is another exterior critique I have, which I mentioned a little bit before, but I do not understand why Subaru has gone to quad tip exhausts. Quad tip exhausts are for cars that have a V8 or more. There's no reason why a car with 4 cylinders and a turbo on it should have a quad tip exhaust. That's way more piping, that's way more weight, and that's 4 tips for literally 1 exhaust pipe. I don't understand why they got away from the JDM looks, because that it looks good. You don't have to put a massive cannon out back, but just 4 exhaust tips on a 4-cylinder that's, you know, making 270 horsepower from the factory is just preposterous. There is Hattie B's at 12 South 2, which I will certainly be going to later. All right, folks, well, that concludes our drive around video of everything that I hate about the Subaru. Hate is a strong word. Some things I, you know, dislike more than others. I wouldn't say there's anything about this car that I actually hate. There's just some things that I find rather annoying, but it's just kind of the way the car market is going with some of them, and then other ones is just kind of like a flop on Subaru. Maybe you could rationalize it away by supply chain issues or budget constraints or whatever, but you know, we're here to make them better, and that's why we do these kind of videos. So the next video you guys see on the Subaru should be the things that I like or love about this car. There are a lot of things, and I guess that's how I'll wrap this video up. If I'm gonna sum up this Subaru, the 2022 Subaru WRX, in, you know, a sentence or two, it would be that it is a great all-around car, but it has a lot of things that are annoying about it. And that is where I will leave you. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Do go ahead and remember that taxation is theft, and there's 87,000 new IRS employees coming after you and me. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys for the next video.